Welcome back everyone. Even closer still, the 2024 Olympics are right around the corner. Today I'll be analyzing the bars, beam, and floor skills and routines of Olympic medalist CHELLSIE MEMMEL. In my view, CHELLSIE has an exciting energy to her performances and she's very aggressive. Before she mounts each event, I feel like her heart is beating faster than the average gymnast. It was like a nervous energy she opened up every time she mounted her event. She earned multiple world medals and an Olympic silver medal, but if not for some injuries that came at very critical times, I believe she would have earned many more medals and been much more recognized. A broken foot resulted in her being named as an alternate to the 2004 Olympic team. A nagging shoulder injury caused her to withdraw from the 2006 World Championships all-around and event finals. At the 2008 Olympics, she injured her ankle and only competed on the uneven bars. In 2012, she retired from competitive gymnastics but made a comeback in 2021. That's 9 years after her retirement. Let's get started with the analysis on bars. She starts with a kip cast handstand on the high bar, right into a free hip Tkachev or free hip reverse hecht, also called a Hindorf, done really clean and really high. Now right into a clean controlled pack salto or a backflip from the high bar to the low bar. Here's a different angle with her free hip Tkachev. Look at the bend of the bar here. She hits the bottom of her free hip with a lot of power. Her toes have essentially stopped and the momentum from her free hip launches her straight up as she quickly and strongly throws the bar behind her. Watch as her legs seem almost still as she rotates her body between her legs to counter rotate and catch the bar at a very rotated angle. This gives her plenty of swing into her pack salto to the low bar with very clean form. Really nicely done. I had to throw this one in as she reaches with all that she has to catch the bar after her free hip Tkachev, generating tons of swing, and she still stays clean in her pack salto. That was exciting. Alright, back at it. Kip cast handstand on the low bar. I went to a different routine because her coach stood in the way in this part of her routine. Here's her Stalter reverse hecht to the high bar, very similar to Komova. This is a very common place to have a leg separation and her legs are glued together. Very nice. Here's a side by side with herself to show how consistent she was in this swing half turn from the high bar to the low bar, catching in a very nice handstand position. She did both a toe-on sole circle and a Stalter circle to throw the bar behind her and catch the high bar. Again, both with very clean and controlled form. Now into a kip cast handstand, micro shy of a vertical handstand. Again, a side by side with herself to show her consistency. A very nice legs together toe-on sole circle to a handstand. Her legs are glued together on this giant full pirouette, really nice and clean. She ends quite a bit over vertical in this handstand in both routines. Now because she has so much more swing in her giant Tkachev, she doesn't rotate through her legs as much on this one. It's much more challenging to create counter rotation in a regular Tkachev than a free hip Tkachev, but it's harder to have consistent timing of throwing the bar in a free hip Tkachev. Moving on, kip cast to handstand, to a nice clean giant swing blind change. A little over vertical here in this handstand. Now in the front giant swing, she is setting up for her jam or stoop in. She has a slight leg separation here, but in normal motion it looks much less pronounced. She's very controlled in her stoop and gets a good compression at the bottom of her swing. Here she jams out and dislocates her shoulders. This is not a real dislocation, it's just what we call it in gymnastics, and pushes her shoulders through to a nice inverted support in what we call an L grip. Just to understand what she's doing here, she stoops her legs in beyond the bar and circles her arms around to an inverted support like this. Her hands are more together because she's much more flexible. Then she goes right into a tuck double front out of her L grip giant. She gets into a tight tuck but has a small cowboy, or having her legs apart, but she spins very fast and has a great stuck landing. Here's a side by side with Ali Raceman. Ali has reverse grip where CHELLSIE has the L grip. CHELLSIE is a bit cleaner in her arch kick into her double front. Ali's a bit more cowboy, but they're both in very tight tuck positions and easily open up into a very controlled landing. Really nice bar work. I put this clip in as I found it very impressive, and she did this when she was younger. She does a kip blind change into the more demanding L grip. Then she does two very clean deep compressed endo stalters. Look at that compression. Great flexibility and beautiful position. Watch her roll her wrists on top of the bar to push down in her L grip handstand. Very nice. Then she does a half turn out of her L grips into a regular grip. Now into her blind change to a giant stoop in, and she has better form on this stoop in and seems a bit more aggressive. Into a very high tuck double front with a great landing. Really nice bar work. Now on to beam. She starts with a jump straddle planche. This is a very high, more like an artistic planche, as ideally you want to be horizontal to the ground like we see here. I believe they judge planches much more strictly these days. Now she runs into a very difficult piked brandy or front flip with a half turn. Sometimes it was more tucked than piked, but it's a difficult skill either way. Although she sees the beam the entire time during the skill, it's always harder to land twisting skills on the beam. Here she puts it into a series quickly and has a back handspring out of it. Nice control. She shows very nice split in the switch leg split leap. I would say slightly over split. Here's a nice standing back tuck with nice control, looking comfortable and aggressive. She shows very nice flexibility in her over split, kick and hold her leg up. Very nice. Now into her standing Arabian or jump half turn to a front flip. Good height and she lands very high. She has to make a bit of an adjustment here, but watch how fast her arms throw over her head. Very fast and very aggressive. Here's a side-by-side with Chelise Jones. Chelise leans back a bit more, and this helps her speed up her flip rotation. Chelsea is in a much tighter tuck, and that helps her with her flip rotation speed. Chelise squats a bit more to adjust her balance, and Chelsea lands a bit higher with more virtuosity, but it's slightly off balance and she has to adjust. Here's a very solid Arabian front from Chelsea. Very nice. Here's a side-by-side with Hesley Rivera doing a side aerial. They both have really nice flexibility throughout and spot the beam the entire skill through. As they plant their foot on the beam, they both look very similar here, except Chelsea lands on her left foot and Hesley lands on her right foot. Here's a side-by-side with Nastia Liukin doing an aerial walkover. Nastia is incredibly elegant and has her lifted leg very straight. They both have their heads back, but Chelsea is much more flipped over and her lifted leg is already preparing for landing. A good way to think about the difference between these two aerials is that Nastia is more like a walkover while Chelsea is more like a flip. It's a micro difference though. Now Chelsea goes into a really cool fast illusion. In an illusion, the foot never leaves the beam. She does this very aggressively and very solid. Here's her run tucked front flip. She lands very high, then squats a bit and basically does an arm throw, moving quickly into her back handspring step out into a layout step out. Really nice flexibility here. The landing of her layout step out looks just like her back handspring step out, except her layout, she doesn't put her hands on the beam. Her dismount is a round off double pike with a really great stuck landing. Although there's no major effect from this, she has one of the most closed shoulder angles I've seen in a round off. I think it's just her personal preference. Here's a side-by-side with Jordan Childs. You can see the difference in her shoulder angle here. They both have very strong sets, but Chelsea keeps her head more neutral where Jordan throws her head back very fast. For Chelsea, keeping her head down helps her get into a much tighter pike, and this helps her land a little higher. Both really nice control in her landings. I understand there's always things we can't control, but I would have loved to have seen what Chelsea could have done if she wouldn't have been injured at such vital times in her career. Let's take a quick overview of her tumbling. She mounted with a piked Arabian double front, also called a de Santos, and does it very high and very easily. Here's a side-by-side with Ali Raisman. They both have strong sets and fast turns into their Arabian. Ali has a slight leg separation here, and Chelsea is in a bit of a tighter tuck position. Look how high they both land their piked Arabian doubles. It's a blind landing, so the extra height helps them navigate and control their landings. Here's a side-by-side with Chelise Jones doing a double layout. They both rotate fast, high, and with clean form. Chelsea sets her chest up a little higher than Chelise, where Chelise leans back a bit more in her takeoff. They both have their chests rise in the second flip, and they keep their arms to their side, which helps with flip rotation. Nice form into a nice controlled landing. This double turn with leg held up is named after Chelsea, called the Memmel, as she was the first one to perform this in international competition. Really well done. Here's her 2.5 twisting back layout punch to an immediate layout front with a controlled landing. Now we take a look at a side-by-side with Alicia Sacramone. Chelsea has very tight form with her legs glued together, where Alicia has her feet crossed a bit. They both land pretty squared off. Chelsea is a bit looser with her legs in her layout front, but they both land very controlled. I really like this illusion into a nice flowing transition pass. It's just fun to watch. Her dismount was traditionally a very tight piked double back done with very nice control. Look how deep she gets into her pike position. This looks very nice, and it also allows her to rotate faster to set up for her landing. I want to end this analysis by showing you her landing in the double twisting Yurchenko. It's in her enthusiastic and authentic response to completing this vault successfully that made me more of a fan for Chelsea. To me, it says she loves taking on a challenge and thrives on the success of completing the challenge. As always, I hope you enjoyed my analysis and got some value from it. Always feel free to like and subscribe if you'd like to be notified each time I release videos like this. Also, leave any thoughts you might have in the comments. Until next time, all my best and rock on!